I want to share with you the different levels of consciousness in marketing. This is a framework that I discovered that Scott Oldford, a mentor of mine I've been working with for several years, shared with me and completely changed my life. And it explains so much of the challenges that entrepreneurs experience in marketing. It was inspired, by the way, we were on this walk, me and Kimberly got a email from Walgreens. Actually, I shouldn't name the company.
My rewards progress is at risk.
Yeah, your rewards progress is at risk. That was the subject line, right? Oh my God. So here's the interesting thing about marketing, right? So we've got different people in the world at all different levels of consciousness. And there's several people out there, Frederick Dodson's one of them, David Hawkins is another one, that have created these scales that basically rank or measure the different levels. And so you've got all these dense, low emotions at the bottom of the scale, things like shame, guilt, fear. And then at the top of the scale, you've got like the Jesus consciousness, right? Which is like love, unity consciousness, joy, abundance. And then you've got everything in between. And what's really important to understand in marketing is that you can create marketing that appeals and speaks to any of these levels. But most mass market consciousness marketing advice goes something like this. You need to find their pain and you need to twist the knife so they buy. And just like that Walgreens email, most mass market consciousness marketing is appealing to fear. It's appealing to lower levels of consciousness. Now, this is not a problem if you're selling to those people. And the truth is we need businesses at all different levels. It's not that there's wrong and right. We need businesses that serve people at all different levels of consciousness, but particularly in the online business world, I work with and I mentor a lot of entrepreneurs who feel like there's this misalignment between them and their clients, and they want to call in higher level, more empowered, self-led clients, people who are easier to work with. And yet, when I look at their marketing, they're speaking about the struggle. They're like, are you struggling to lose 20 pounds? And what happens if things don't change? Your life is going to get so much worse than it already is. And then they wonder why they attract these disempowered clients who are really difficult to work with and often don't get great results because they maybe are not ready to change, or they don't necessarily have, they're looking for a savior, or they don't necessarily have that same level of leadership that someone at a higher level of consciousness has. Again, no judgment, no shame. But I think having this awareness around the different levels of consciousness, Scott talks about the fact that there are 4 primary levels. There's reactive consciousness. That Walgreens email was designed to speak to reactive consciousness. This is someone who's just kind of like bouncing around like a ball in a pinball machine in their life. There's really no self-awareness. They're kind of just at the whims of like what's coming at them in life. And so an email that's designed to pull people into fear of like, oh my God, my rewards are at risk. That's an email that's really going to work for someone who's in reactive consciousness, maybe 50% of the world. So if you're selling mass market, oftentimes this is the type of marketing that you'll see. One level up from that, we've got willful consciousness. And these are folks who are very much in that kind of like grind, hustle. I take agency and I make things happen in my life. This is a lot of business advice that you'll hear out there is rooted in this level of consciousness. So you'll hear people talk about like, you got to just go out there and make things happen. You got to push really hard to get what's yours. And if you're speaking to people in this level of consciousness, that's the kind of language you're going to use. Up one level from that, we have intellectual consciousness. These are people who are very in their head. There's a lot of like rationality. That's how they make decisions, right? So if you're selling to these people, it's like you're speaking about your 3-step framework and process for creating a 7-figure business. You're talking about case studies and using intellectual scaffolding to speak to that person's intellectual mind. And then one level up from that, you have intuitive consciousness. These are the people who make decisions from their own intuitive guidance, who feel the energy of a room, who feel the energy of a mentor, and who lead their lives not from their mind, but from their heart. And so if you're selling to these people, then we're not going to talk about case studies, right? We're going to show up in a way that creates an environment where someone can really feel you. And someone can have that moment where they feel drawn and magnetized to you based on your presence, your being. So it's really important to ask yourself, number one, what level of consciousness am I at? That's the first thing to understand, because generally you can only serve someone maybe 100 points below you in level of consciousness. So if you're at intuitive consciousness and you're trying to serve people who are in willful consciousness, you're going to have a lot of really unhappy clients. And this is an uncomfortable thing. Like when I made the shift from intellectual consciousness to intuitive consciousness in my business, I had several uncomfortable fallouts with clients who were at a different level of consciousness who were not ready to make that leap with me. And so it's really important to understand, number one, what level of consciousness you are. But then number two, what level of consciousness are the people that you want to attract at, and aligning your marketing so that you're not speaking in a way that is above or below the level that you want to call in. If you're trying to call in intuitive consciousness people, and yet I look at your sales pages and you got like countdown timers on them, and you're like, if you don't buy in the next 5 seconds, everyone you know is going to die. You're speaking to reactive consciousness people, and the only customers you're going to get are reactive consciousness people. Intuitive people who go to that page are not going to respond to that. They're going to be like, oh, this feels terrible. This is not for me. Whereas if you're selling to willful consciousness and your sales page is like, hey, how good would it feel to be like expansive and to wake up every day feeling the most alive you've ever felt in your life, and you're wondering why it's not resonating or not landing, it's because the level of consciousness of your sales page is at intuitive when you're trying to attract willful people. So aligning your business, aligning your marketing, getting clear on this piece is so incredibly powerful. Scott Oldford's got so much great stuff on this. If you check out his website, I do a lot of work inside our collective community with our clients on this. This is one of our core frameworks that we will talk about all the time, because it really explains so much of what goes on behind the scenes in business. So many of the challenges, just problems, honestly, that entrepreneurs experience, as well as how to tune and align your business so you can create that flow of aligned clients who are going to be the people that you really want to work with. So much of what it actually takes to make that happen is understanding this and then being able to implement this in your business. This is what we're doing inside the collective, by the way. This is my monthly membership community for online business owners who are leading with soul, who are leading with spirit, who are at that intuitive consciousness, or maybe bridging into intuitive consciousness, and they're ready to align their business with who they really are, to show up in a way that feels authentic, that feels congruent with the deepest aspect of themselves, to learn to attract clients with magnetism, with that attractive force that happens when you start radiating in your business. And you can start calling people in who don't need to be sold. You don't need to use all sorts of pushy, persuasive, salesy tactics when you have this piece in place. And so we're going deep inside this community, I would say unwiring the conventional paradigm for doing business and stepping into a whole new chapter of soul-led growth, weekly live transmission calls where you'll connect with me, get mentorship, coaching on mindset, energetics, your business strategy, connect with an incredible community of soul-led entrepreneurs who are on this journey with you. I've never created something like this in my life. It's the community that I wish I had when I really started to wake up in business, and it's available to you. I'd love to welcome you inside. There's a link down below if you want to learn more and join us on our next transmission call. And I hope this helped you today. See you in the next transmission.